Hi guys, how's it going? So I want to reiterate something about the nutritional plan that I give to all my clients, and it's something that I push a lot. And I want to explain, the reasoning behind this. So over the years of doing this, for about 10 years, just over 10 years now, I've noticed that, people do 12-week plans or, 6-month plans, and they get their body fat right down. And that's great, and it's something I've done in the past, and I still like that to a certain extent. I like short-term, cuts, because it can give someone a start and an end goal, and that's great. And I still, work with that on occasion as well. But a lot of people have that as their only focus, and something I noticed by doing that is, yes, some people might drop down a lot of fat quickly and get to where they are, but let me see them in 6 months. A lot of the time, pretty more often than not, these people are dropping fat, and then within 6 months they slowly creep back up into that nutrition, the diet plan that they had, and then they put all the fat back on and more. There's a crazy statistic that 85% of people who lose fat and get to their weight end up putting more weight on eventually and more. So that shows you that they're not learning the fundamentals. And as I said before, I wanted to give you an understanding of the things that I'm giving are a human diet. What you have been doing before is most likely not. You've been eating incorrectly for a long period of time. So what happens is, when you eat like a human being, you think, oh God, this is short term. When you just start doing more steps, when you start doing more things like that, you start thinking, okay, well, how long do I have to do this for? And it's what you're doing is you're just doing normal human stuff. You're just doing some walking. You're just eating, basic, wholesome, good quality food, and you're not having all these, different kinds of foods, tons of grains, tons of bread, adding, tons of salad and tons of extra vegetables to fill up your stomach, and then you end up being hungry at night and starving because your protein levels are not high enough. So it's all over the place. Whereas if you eat like a basic human being, you can sustain that. You can have the body you want, and you can sustain that over a long period of time. That's not saying if you go on holiday and you have, a bit more of leniency, that's great. But, within a week or 10 days, you're not going to be completely out there. And also, if it's implemented in your life, you're most likely going to do a little bit of exercise when you're away anyway. So you're going to balance that. And if you put on a couple kilos, that's cool. You come back, you're straight back to it. But a lot of people in day-to-day, taking away holidays, day-to-day living, and they'll focus on a 12-week program, they'll get the results. It's something I used to do a lot, and then they put all the weight back on, and I was like, why is that so annoying? Like, why can't they sustain this? And they put all of it back on if they go elsewhere. If I speak to them in 6 months, of how's things going, they put all the weight back on. And it's something that I've noticed, and I started thinking, right, what can we do? We can actually try and learn fundamentals, fundamental things that you can implement into your day, and then you can do that and forever. So what I'm trying to say to you today is that the things that I'm giving you, start putting in your head that, hold on, like, I'm just going to have to do these steps just like I brush my teeth in the morning. That's something I'm going to have to implement into my life. That's also something in terms of what I'm eating. It's something I should be eating every day. I should just be having protein, and if you want some basic vegetables and loads of fruit, that's how I should be eating as a human. So you should make sure you actually just put that into your head that this is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to have to do forever. And when you do that, you just kind of accept it. And then you have that balance between, on a Saturday night with your mates, you go out, if you want a glass of wine and you want a pizza, you do it and you have it. And that's the perfect balance, in my opinion. And I don't see anyone who can come to me and say that that's not, because a lot of the time when you go to programs and it's like a 12-week program and they lose weight and they say, oh, it's flexible dieting, and they're following calories, that's all well and good, flexible dieting and counting calories, but how long are you going to count calories for? For the rest of your life? You're most likely not, because you're having the wrong produce, and it's really difficult to keep to that certain amount of calorie count. A perfect example is, which I've said before, is when was the last thing you had 3 avocados in a row? You probably didn't. You probably had half of one, and then that was probably enough, or that was enough. And then what happens if when was the last time you had 1 square of chocolate? Most likely you don't do that over the long run. You have a bad day on a Tuesday, you have 1 square of chocolate because it's in your calories, and then you end up eating the whole family size bar, which is like 1,000 calories, and then you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. So that's the thing, right? But whereas if it's not in the house and you're following a human diet and you go to and then on a Saturday night when it's you know, after you've got to your certain level of body fat, you're going out with your mates, you have, as I said, a glass of wine or a beer and a pizza, you have a great time. That's the perfect balance, because then you come home the next day and then you're straight back to it, and then you've got the balance of the quality nutrition, your perfect body, you feel great, and every week you can go out with your pals and you can sustain a really good balance. And for me, when it kind of figured all these parts out and all these little bits, it kind of came together to what I'm saying now. And I can't push this enough. And just so what I'm trying to summarize is, start implementing in your head. This is not a short-term thing. This is a thing you should just be doing for the rest of your life. And then once you get to your goal in terms of body fat, sustain it over a long period of time. Get to the body fat you want, because training and exercise and health, there's way more to it than just body fat, because, you know, losing fat shouldn't be a thing, right? So obviously get the weight to where you want it to get to, and then start concentrating on other things. How efficient are you in work? How, you know, how you're feeling, how you're sleeping. Obviously, as you get your body healthier and your fat comes down, those things will come anyway. But you can start thinking about, you know, how fast you are, how mobile you are, how flexible you can move, how you're going to do injury prevention exercises. So there's way more to the levels of the game. So you know, get the fat loss thing out of the way. Get rid of it. Stop battling with it for the rest of your life. The last thing you want to do is, you know, for the rest of your life, constantly battling with body fat. That is a nightmare. That is not a high standard of living. That is, and then eventually, if you keep battling with body fat, eventually at one point you'll just break, and you'll probably have a really bad resentment against exercise, bad resentment towards food. And you'll be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to do what I want. And then you end up going down that slippery slope and you slowly deteriorate. I know that sounds quite dramatic, but I've watched it because I've done this long enough, and I've watched people just go in that direction, and they end up, you know, you see them in a bit and they're just not in a good way. Because if you can't get your health in order, nothing else really follows very well. You end up going to a situation where, you know, you don't feel good, you're overweight, your joints start hurting, you end up feel confident about yourself, you end up not feeling good in your relationship, you don't feel good at work, you feel tired, you don't feel motivated. So that's why you have to get the core fundamental correct. Get your body fat to where you want it to be, and then from there you can then work on other stuff. But what I was saying is just keep you understand that you have to do it like you're brushing your teeth, your steps, getting the sun in your skin, and getting yourself to training and good food. And if you just stick to those fundamentals, you can have that perfect balance of, you know, weekends away, or, you know, a holiday, etc. But you don't just go all or nothing, go into a nutrition plan and then put all the weight back on, because that's an absolute nightmare, and that's not where you want to be. So hope that helps. It's an 8-minute video, a little bit longer, but I hope it helps. Any questions, as always, please let me know.